What's up behind you?
I see what you call death drops. Poison being dropped on the American people. Condensation normally comes from airplanes and it dissipates because it's moisture. This does not dissipate.
This is killing us.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is poison. Poison being dropped on us. Nobody's doing anything about it. Congress is not doing anything about it. But this is being dropped on them and their children and their grandchildren. So what is going on behind the scenes?
It's causing Alzheimer's, it's causing fibromyalgia, it's causing cancer, and we're all victims to this.
We're all victims of it. Nobody doing anything about it. Has to be the government. Think General Motors, Ford Motor Company, GE. You think any of them are doing this? This is government-operated sanction.
It's CIA operated, so the CIA would have to have contract killers. Maybe it's from Air America, but no, Air America is defunct. There's another.
Well, Air America was the old CIA run in the Southeast Asia. These are unmarked, huge bomber-type airplanes with no markings on them. I've seen them, 4 of them on the runway in Lincoln, Nebraska, being operated by the Air National Guard of Lincoln, Nebraska.
Could this be Evergreen?
Could be. I don't know, but they don't have any markings on them. I know that.
My God Almighty! Look at this. This is outrageous. Can you imagine how many millions of dollars this is costing?
Millions and millions of dollars, obviously, for the cost of this.
And who's paying for it?
Has to be the government.
No, it has to be the people. You're wrong.
Well, the people, but the government's using their money to pay for the fuel and the poison that they're dropping on us to kill us.
Could a strange substance found by a Southwest Arkansas man be part of a government test? Well, that's the question at the heart of a phenomenon called chemtrails, now getting widespread attention. Well, tonight, KSLA News 12 investigation reporter Jeff Farrell shows us the results of testing we had done about what's in our skies.
It seemed like some mornings it was just crisscrossing the whole sky. It was just like a giant checkerboard.
Bill Nichols snapped several photos of the strange clouds from his home in Stamps, Arkansas. They begin as normal contrails from a jet engine, but do not fade away like a normal contrail. Soon after, he saw particles in the air.
You know, because we'd see it drop to the ground in a haze.
Nichols then noticed the material collecting on the ground.
This is water and stuff that I collected in bowls. I had it set out in my backyard on my dad's pickup truck.
KSLA News 12 had the sample tested at a lab. The results? A high level of barium, 6.8 parts per million, more than 3 times the toxic level set by the EPA. Armed with these lab results about the high levels of barium found in our sample, we decided to contact the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality. They told us that yes, these levels are very unusual, but at the same time they added the caveat that proving the source is a whole other matter. Barium is a hallmark of other chemtrail testing, which even attracted attention from a Los Angeles TV station. There's already no shortage of unclassified weather modification programs by the government. But those who fear chemtrails could be secret biological or chemical testing on the public point to the 1977 Senate hearings in particular, which confirmed 239 populated areas had been contaminated with biological agents between 1949 and 1969. Later, the 1994 Rockefeller Report concluded hundreds of thousands of military personnel were also subjected to secret biological experiments over the last 60 years. But could secret testing be underway yet again?
I'd rather it be something inert and benign, something that's, not causing any damage, but I'd like to know what it is.
KSLA News 12 discovered chemtrails are even mentioned by name in the initial draft of House Bill 2977 back in 2001 under the Space Preservation Act. But the military denies any such program exists. Jeff Farrell, KSLA News 12 reporting.
And, it turns out until 9 years ago, the government had the right under U.S. law to conduct secret testing on the American public under specific conditions. Only a public outcry repealed part of that law with some exceptions.
A Just report mentioned high levels of barium linked to those alleged chemtrails. We wanted to find out exactly what effects barium has on the body. We spoke with Mark Ryan, the director of the Poison Control Center. Ryan tells KSLA News 12 that short-term exposure can lead to anything from stomach to chest pains. Long-term exposure causes blood pressure problems. Ryan addressed concerns by chemtrail researchers that barium could be meant to wear down a person's immune system.
Anything that causes ill effects from the body long-term, chronically, is going to affect your ability because it's constantly working on the body. So from that aspect, yeah, it's a potential.
Ryan says he's conducted research on his own about secret government testing on the public, but he's still a bit skeptical about the alleged chemtrails, at least at the moment, because the Poison Control Center has seen no calls about exposure to barium.
In front of a camera too often, and they don't like that. You know, when I first met you 30 years or so ago, you came in to see my mother. I didn't trust you. I said you were the FBI, and I was calling the FBI because I knew that things were going on. Is the agency today what it was 40 years ago?
The FBI today is not the agency it was 40 years ago. And I'm convinced that the FBI today has been infiltrated by the Illuminati, as has the CIA, as has military intelligence, as has NSA, and I think our government's being run by the Illuminati, to be honest with you.
Well, the CIA has been often called the enforcement arm of the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations, at 58 East 68th Street in New York City. It's the Rockefeller Bund, the Cassius cartel that owns the Federal Reserve. They are involved with the Bank of England. We're seeing the major operation coming from London and from New York City and Washington. Do you think that these craft are military? Is this done by, do you think Leon Panetta is flying out the military, or is this private contractors, possibly through Evergreen Air, that would be putting these dispersants upon us?
Well, I believe that since you have the Lincoln, Nebraska Air National Guard involved, I would say it's government. I don't think it's private contractors, but I don't know.
Well, we've got a different opinion here, but there are those who are watching this show right now who know there are pilots that would like to come forth. They're just hunting for a website that will address this issue, because a lot of these chemtrail sites are not addressing the issue. They're not pointing their cameras and the telescope and their ire and anger on the target. But we find out that there are some people who are coming forth in private. They're telling us at this base up here in Oregon. There's a woman who was at a bar, and she was talking to some of the guys, and they were bragging about dropping this stuff all over the people of the planet. What is the mentality of somebody like that? Are they like the guards at Auschwitz and Dachau?
I would guess the mentality of these people who are doing this, there could be mind control victims, or I would say the military, and they do what they're told. Like you mentioned a few moments ago, this fellow that was in a firefight, he didn't know who he was shooting at or why he was shooting at him. But the thing that bothers me is, don't these pilots know that they're putting death dump on their own families? Okay? That would bother me if I was doing this and dumping this poison on my own family. And I don't understand it. I can't understand. I can't explain it either.
What are you going to tell them? Look in there.
I'm telling the pilots to come forward, and we'll put you on camera without using your name and your face.
Tonight, a community in the San Bernardino Mountains has a real mystery on its hands. The official explanation here is that jet contrails are causing strange lines in the sky, and that it's pollen making people sick on the ground. But others are convinced it is something else, and they ask, is the government experimenting with our weather?
There was a huge dust cloud.
Longtime Cedar Glen resident Gretchen Sherman says she has never seen anything like it.
How thick was it?
Oh, it covered the entire Cedar Glen area.
A cloud of dust leaving a sticky yellow slime all over her car. It happened again last February, and calls began pouring into the local Alpenhorn newspaper.
And they had a tremendous upsurge of children that were not going to school at that time.
Pharmacist Ed Burrows says it is the most mysterious illness he's seen in 22 years on the mountain.
A lot of eye infection problems, upper respiratory problems, nosebleeds.
The nearby March Air Force Base say it didn't come from them. Others said it was a pollen cloud. The Department of Health found a yellowish tint on a tissue submitted for testing. But, quote, there was no sign of any biological form, such as cedar pollen, and the test was ruled inconclusive. And it wasn't long before things ballooned into a sky-high mystery.
The story is not just here in Crestline and the alleged yellow cloud. People say the government is up there in airplanes spraying all kinds of chemicals to change or manipulate the weather, leaving what you see there, and they call that a chemtrail.
So what I look at there and I think are contrails, you're telling me are chemtrails?
Yes, that a contrail would be dissipated by now.
It would.
Yes, it would.
Chemtrails. On the internet, they are cited as proof of the government creating clouds to combat global warming. In response, the Air Force says that, quote, there is no such thing as a chemtrail. The actual contrails are a safe and natural phenomenon. And that people are seeing more contrails simply because there are more jets forming large clouds, depending on weather conditions, as in this video of alleged chemtrails shot near San Francisco.
I think these are contrails.
Professor Gregory Benford of UC Irvine works with the Department of Energy on weather research.
That's very odd. They could be very large contrails.
He says the DOE doesn't know of any jets spraying chemicals to affect the weather. However, he says we will probably see it in the near future.
You've got to, in a sense, engineer all these so you get the right kind of clouds for the effects we want.
It is called geoengineering, fighting global warming by putting a chemical dust in the atmosphere and reflecting harmful radiation back into space.
You could use barium oxide, for example, which makes big fluffy clouds. You could use tiny little bits of aluminum, which is benign in the environment, and essentially manage the climate.
And what I found was unusual spiking since the early 1990s in barium, aluminum.
But Rosalind Peterson of California Skywatch says health department records show a sharp increase in both chemicals in the water supply of Northern California, dating from the time the huge contrails first appeared over her home in Mendocino County.
What's the significance of the barium and the aluminum?
I went and got all the tests, and all these things in the same test would be up way over state and federal standards. It had to be airborne, because how could it get to such diverse regions of our county? We have jets going in every direction. X's, east, west, north, south, circles. There is something going on in the air. I don't know exactly what, but I think there's some experimentation.
Is it legal?
I don't know, because we haven't had a public discussion.
But what is unknown today may be actual fact tomorrow, thanks to a bill soon to be voted on in the U.S. Senate, a Weather Modification Act, calling for research in, quote, attempting to change or control by artificial methods the natural development of atmospheric cloud forms.
Doesn't it seem to you that they're going to be doing it in the future for sure?
Yes. And if they are, I want to know about it.
In the meantime, a lot of people are wondering if they'll ever get clear skies and a clear answer.
The legislation is there, therefore somebody's thinking about this. How does this make sense?
I don't know, maybe they're practicing.
Over Cedar Glen, over Arrowhead.
I guess you have to try it out before you use it. I'm not sure.
Well, you be the judge. We'll keep you posted on anything further on the story, and there will be more, that's for sure. More information on the weather modification proposals, check on our website, NBC4.com.
Dumps, otherwise known as chemical trails, are being dropped and sprayed throughout the United States, in England, Scotland, Ireland, Northern Europe, and I have personally seen them not only in the United States but in Mexico and Canada. Birds are dying around the world. Fish are dying by the hundreds of thousands around the world. This is genocide. This is poison. This is murder by the United Nations. This element within our society that's doing this must be stopped. I happen to know of 2 of the locations where the airplanes are that dump this crap on us. 4 of the planes are out of Air National Guard, Lincoln, Nebraska, and the other planes are out of Fort Still, Oklahoma. I personally have observed the planes that were standing still in Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, at the Air National Guard. They have no markings on them. They're huge, bomber-like airplanes, no markings. This is a crime against humanity, a crime against America, a crime against the citizens of this great country. They must be stopped. What is wrong with Congress? This has an effect on their population and their people and their friends and their relatives and themselves. What's wrong with them? What's wrong with the pilots who are flying these airplanes? They're dumping this crap, this poison, on their own families. Somebody has to do something about it. Somebody in Congress has to step forward and stop it now. Thank you. I'm Ted Gunderson.